What if you woke up one day to find your world turned upside down? This is not a hypothetical for some, but a harsh, daily reality. Let's journey back in time to the early 20th century, to the birth of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The land known as Palestine was under British control, but a promise was made, the Balfour Declaration, promising a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This set the stage for decades of strife and tension. Fast forward to 1948, the year that marked the establishment of the State of Israel. The joy of one people became the sorrow of another, as approximately 700,000 Palestinians were forced out of their homes, an event they refer to as the Nakba or catastrophe. The following years saw a cycle of wars, uprisings, peace treaties, and broken promises. The Six-Day War of 1967 resulted in Israel's occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, territories home to millions of Palestinians. This occupation continues to this day, despite numerous United Nations resolutions calling for its end. The complexity of this conflict is immense, with roots entangled in religion, nationalism, and the scars of history. It's a saga marked by bouts of violence and brief periods of calm, by the constant hum of tension, and by generations growing up knowing nothing but conflict. It's a story of two peoples, each with their own narratives of suffering and resilience, of injustice and hope. But today our focus is on the Palestinians, on their struggle, their stories, their voices. This is not just about land and borders, but about human rights, about a people's right to live in freedom and dignity, about the right of refugees to return to their homes. It's about the world's failure to address these rights, to hold accountable those who violate them. This is the reality that Palestinians have been living for decades, a reality that is often overlooked. As we delve deeper into this conflict, let's keep our eyes open, our hearts receptive, and our minds ready to question and understand. This is the start of our journey, the unveiling of the truth. But what does this conflict mean in human terms? Let's delve deeper into the reality of the situation, the human cost, the very essence of this ongoing struggle. The cost isn't just counted in bricks and mortar, it's counted in lives. Lives of innocent civilians, men, women, children, and the elderly, who found themselves caught in the crossfire of a conflict that's been raging for decades. These are people who wake up every day, not knowing if they'll see the sunset. Children who play in the shadow of rubble and ruin, their laughter a stark contrast to the sound of distant gunfire and explosion. Women who've lost husbands, sons, brothers, yet continue to hold their families together with a resilience that defies comprehension. Elderly folk who've spent their twilight years not in peace but in a state of constant fear and uncertainty. The casualty rates are staggering. Thousands of lives have been lost, countless more changed forever. But it's not just about the physical toll. The psychological impact is equally devastating. Imagine living under the perpetual cloud of dread, the anxiety of not knowing when the next strike will come, the pain of losing loved ones. The trauma inflicted on this population is profound, and its effects will linger for generations. Yet, amidst the despair, there's a spirit that refuses to be quashed, a spirit of resistance, of hope, of a future where peace prevails. You see it in the eyes of a child holding a makeshift flag, in the resolve of a woman who rebuilds her home brick by brick, in the wisdom of an old man who still dreams of a better tomorrow. This, my friends, is the human cost of conflict. It's a cost that can't be quantified in numbers alone, because behind every number there's a name, a story, a life that was cut short. How has the world responded to these atrocities? This is a question that many of us have found ourselves asking. The international response to the conflict has been, in many ways, a reflection of our global society's complexities and contradictions. On one hand, we've seen countries, international organizations, and human rights groups step up to condemn the violence. Voices from around the globe have echoed in unison, calling for an end to the atrocities, for justice to be served. Resolutions have been passed, statements have been made, and rallies have been held. These actions bear testimony to the power of collective outrage and the global community's capacity for empathy and solidarity. But on the other hand, We've also witnessed instances where the international response has fallen woefully short. There have been times when political considerations have been allowed to overshadow human rights. Times when the urgency of the situation has been downplayed, when the world has looked away. In these moments, the international community's silence has been deafening, and yet there are those who refuse to stay silent. Among them are human rights advocates, tirelessly working to keep the world's attention fixed on the crisis. They document violations, they lobby governments, they advocate for the victims. Their work is a beacon of hope in an otherwise grim landscape. But it's not just about what's being done, it's also about what's not being done. The gaps in the international response highlight the need for more concerted efforts. More pressure needs to be put on the parties involved to respect human rights, to halt the violence, to work towards a peaceful resolution. The world's response to these atrocities is a litmus test of our shared humanity. It's a test we cannot afford to fail, because the stakes are too high, because every life lost, every right violated is a stain on our collective conscience. In the end, it's important to remember that silence isn't neutrality, silence is complicity. The world's silence can be as deadly as any weapon, and it's a weapon we must all strive to disarm. In a world where information is power, what role does the media play in this conflict? When we talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict, we cannot ignore the vital role of the media. It's through their lens that most of us get to see, hear, and understand what's happening thousands of miles away. The media wields the power to inform, to educate, and to invoke sympathy, but also, unfortunately, the power to distort, to oversimplify, and to dehumanize. Media platforms globally have the potential to bring the harsh realities of this conflict to light, to expose the atrocities, and to amplify the voices of the oppressed. They can make us see beyond borders and politics to the human suffering that lies at the heart of this conflict. They can make us question, they can make us care, and they can inspire us to act. But the media's power is a double-edged sword. It also has the capacity to perpetuate harmful narratives, to vilify one side over the other, and to reduce a complex, decades-long conflict to a simplistic black-and-white narrative. It's important to remember that every story has multiple perspectives, and a single narrative can never fully encapsulate the whole truth. Moreover, journalists covering this conflict often put their lives on the line to bring us these stories. They face threats, intimidation, and even violence in their pursuit of the truth. Yet their courage and determination shine a light on the darkest corners of this conflict, revealing the human cost that is too often overlooked. We, as consumers of media, also have a responsibility. We need to question, to analyze, and to seek out diverse perspectives. To understand the complexities of this conflict, we must look beyond the headlines and sound bites and delve deeper into the context and history. So let's not forget, the media is not just a passive observer in this conflict. It's an active participant, shaping our perceptions and our responses. And we, in turn, have the power to shape the media. The lens through which we view this conflict can shape our understanding and our actions. Now that you know, what will you do? The question hangs in the air, a challenge and an invitation. The story we've shared is not an easy one to digest, but it is a story that demands attention. It's a tale of conflict, of pain, of human rights abuses occurring with alarming regularity. But knowledge, as they say, is power. Now that you're armed with the truth, you have the power to make a difference. You have the ability to lend a voice to the voiceless, to stand up against the injustices that are being carried out every day. So how can you contribute? The first step is awareness. Share what you've learned today with others. Let this story reverberate through your social networks, your communities, your circles of influence. It's astounding how far a single voice can reach when it's amplified by the power of shared understanding. Educate yourself further. Dive deeper into the history of the conflict, the politics surrounding it, the international responses. There are countless resources available online that can provide you with a more comprehensive understanding of the situation. Get involved. There are numerous organizations that are working tirelessly to alleviate the suffering and to advocate for justice. Reach out to them, volunteer your time, donate if you can, or simply spread the word about their work. Join the conversation, engage in discussions, debates, dialogues, ask questions, challenge assumptions, seek answers. Remember, every conversation you have is an opportunity to shed light on the truth and to inspire others to do the same. Finally, remember that change doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process, often fraught with challenges and setbacks, but every step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. Every voice that joins the chorus for justice, every hand that extends in aid, brings us one step closer to a world where human rights are upheld and respected. In the face of injustice, silence is not an option. Share this message and let the world know the truth.